Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of Everyday EDC. My name is Tyler. This is the Defcon TP68, the name that I did not know when I unboxed it. Let's do a quick little overview of this guy. So the fit and finish on this isn't bad at all when it comes to the way everything sets into place, the way it looks, even the action. I adjusted it a tiny bit, but I didn't adjust it for the action. I adjusted it because the blade centering is slightly off. And without taking it apart, maybe I'll do a video kind of like Metal Complex showed everybody how to fix their off centering. I think I should be able to do that with this, and maybe I'll make a video on that. This is a D2 blade, and it says it's a drop point, but it almost kind of looks like that spear. Just because they did this, I'm going to call it a reverse finger choil. Because you choke up to this position. You can hold it here, which feels normal, but I think they're implying that you can hold it here, which is unique. This is a different style. This half finger choil in the blade, half into the scales and the liner. And then you have this up here where you can choke up and get in there. Is this as comfortable as, say... Oh, this is where they stole the idea from. The Man X2. The Man X2 does it right. The half and half with a thumb ramp. Perfect. Here, no, it doesn't feel quite like the Man X2. Here, no, it doesn't feel quite like the Man X2. But that's what they were going for. They were going for that. Now, if you wanted to compare it to, like, say, the Dogma. The Dogma has pretty damn good ergonomics in the choke-up position. Complete control. It's not like that. I think they missed the mark there a little bit. Not a huge complaint. I'm not really complaining. I actually appreciate the attempt because it's totally different. But so this is running on what they call the axle lock. I like the fact that they're being creative. I like the fact that they took an idea that was already made and they just straight up made it their own. Straight up sarcasm. But the axle lock that they got going on here, they do a pretty damn good job. Out of the box, this thing was just up and down great. This does have a little bit of up and down blade play, and I could feel it in the axle lock when you're holding these thumb studs here. And when it does that, it's that tiny blade play that you, like if I was to take my fingers and move it like that, it's like, you guys can barely see my fingers move. That's the way it feels. It's like that little click. You don't even physically see it. Well, I guess I can physically see it. But it's minute. Am I worried about it? No. Because of the axle lock. I'm not as worried about it as if it was like a liner lock. So these are G10 scales with liners that aren't recessed or anything like that, but they are milled out on the inside. You really can't see it. So to put that in perspective, there's a giant square milled out here, a giant square milled out there. Same on the other side. It does not have a deep carry pocket clip, and it does not appear to be ambidextrous, which, again, you could tell that this design is kind of half-assed because it feels like a couple different designs put together, but why would you have a freaking axle lock and only have the pocket clip go on one side? That makes no sense to me. This is one of the truly ambidextrous locking mechanisms, and you're not even going to allow the pocket clip to flip to the other side by drilling another hole? Like, what? Dumb. Anyways, let's go into some specifications. I don't actually hate this knife, despite the tone of the way this is going. So the overall length is coming in at a whopping just over 8.5 inches. The overall blade length is coming in at about 3 4/5. But the overall blade length is coming in at about 3 1/4 due to that finger choil. The finger choil thing. All right, let's check the weight on this guy. This guy is not a lightweight knife by any means, but it is not a super heavy knife either. If you're used to carrying a larger knife, then this won't be a huge deal. Coming in at 4.87 ounces. A little bit beefier. It's not your leather pants, dress, skirt, anything of that nature. Maybe in your bra. I don't know. No, just kidding. But it's mainly a jean style knife. So let's check the blade stock thickness here. The blade stock thickness, while it looks super Was I going? This thing freaking zeroed out because this blade stock thickness, I'm going to start questioning my freaking calipers. Because this blade stock looks super thick, but it's showing 1.3. Put that into perspective. Let's take a look at the Civivi Dogma. 1.1. Okay. I'm going to question that and double check this after the video. Because that thing looks thick. Showing about 20 thousandths behind the edge. It does have a lot of room to come down, and they start the flat grind at about 3/4 of the way up, which is pretty nice. Let's check the overall width. It's coming in about 0.55 inches. Typical norm's about 0.5, so not a huge deal. The overall height of this knife at its highest point is 1.4. That is not too bad either. Why? Because the Manix 2 is coming in at a 1.74, just to put that into perspective. Let's get into some generic size comparisons. Civivi Elementum and the Civivi Dogma. Obviously coming in at much larger than both of these. It's got the Dogma by probably about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. Now let's check the Rat Model 1, which is going to be a little bit more up to size. Yep, it's almost the exact same size as the Rat Model 1. And here's your Rat Model 2. Alright. Go into your Ferrum Forge. Not Ferrum Forge. What the frick? Feldspars. I'm all over the place tonight. Obviously a little bit larger than the regular Feldspar, much larger than the Mini. Here is your Spyderco Manix 2. It's a little bit longer than your Spyderco Manix 2, but it obviously crushes the overall blade length for the Spyderco Manix 2. Here's your blade length. You're almost getting 3/4 of an inch more. Last but not least, my other Defcon. This is the Defcon Kabuto. The Defcon Kabuto is about the same size. The whole reason that I bought this Defcon TP68, I had no want or anything, but this thing I loved and love. So, do you guys see that? Every single time I do it, oh my gosh. That's like why this knife sticks around. I refuse to use it, but I do that. Anyways, the one thing I can say about Defcon is they crush it with the fidget factor. But that's the reason that I bought this. I figured I'd give them a shot. And I appreciate the design on this because the ergonomics here are good. The ergonomics here are good. The ergonomics here are okay. It's not bad. I mean, the ergonomics of this knife are pretty darn good. Are they great? No. But they did something different than most designs. They kind of took a bunch of designs and slammed them together. And it kind of works. So kudos to them. So this Axle lock, it feels just like an Axis lock. The action on it's fantastic. The one complaint that I have, the major complaint that I have about this knife, is that this thumb stud on the Axle lock here and these thumb studs here are sharp as shit. Now, are they going to cut me? I don't think so. But when you're fidgeting, you want to sit here and just, you know, just fidget with this freaking thing. You just want to just play with it because it's so fidgety. But then you play with it for 5 minutes and you're kind of like, ow, you dick. That kind of hurts. So, you know, it's a $40 knife. I think for $40 it's doing pretty good. You know, they did a lot of things right. This blade is slicey enough. You got a ton of blade length to work with here. The fidget factor is pretty darn good. The overall ergonomics are pretty good. I wish they would have made this ambidextrous. You know, they have a bunch of jimping on here that's not locking me into place. That thumb ramp, I guess, locks me into place. I don't think it's because of the jimping. I just think it's because of the thumb ramp. You know, they don't need all this jimping. They have a little lanyard hole there. They just drilled a hole through the thing, which is cool. Whatever. Let's check the hardware real quick. So the pivot is a T8. And right in front of me. The body screws appear to be a T6. Wow. I don't know if you can take these thumb studs off, but one thumb stud is a T8. The other one is a T6. It's weird how they choose to do what where. It is a lock. The pivot is locked in place, so that's a good thing. So it's not free spinning. This is on ball bearings. I can't tell if they're ceramic or not, but I can see them through here. And that's why the action is so good. You know, most axis locks from Benchmade, they come on the phosphor bronze. This is what an axle lock feels like on bearings. It's awesome. Yeah. This is an Omega spring setup. It's the exact same thing as the axis lock. But overall, my thoughts on this knife. If you were to ask me about this knife about, I don't know, 6-7 months ago, before like the budget world just started just ripping in half and Civivi came out of the freaking, you know, Hellhound, and then the CJRB came out of the heavens, and there's this epic battle of all these budget knives, this thing would have been freaking fantastic. It truly would have. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 a year ago. This thing would have been awesome and killed it. But it doesn't anymore. You have something like this, where they have these recessed liners, and it's just like, you could tell thought and consideration went into the quality control and the design of this knife. Whereas this one, 100% honesty, I kind of feel like I'm holding a clone of 3 different knives together. I don't think that they put too much thought into it, because it works, but it doesn't work great in anything. The only thing that's really great is the axle lock that's on here. Does that mean I can't recommend this knife? No, it doesn't. I think I can recommend this knife, but know what you're getting into before you get it. You're getting great action, a lot of blade length. You're getting a pretty decent ergonomic setup. These things are going to rip up your hands. None of this is knocked down, so it's going to cut you. It's not by cut you, but it'll do that thing where it shaves your freaking nail. Where's that? So yeah, it'll do that thing where it shaves your nail right there. You know, so it's not knocked down. You got some chamfered edgings a little bit around here, and it's not contoured or anything. But on the flip side, I do feel like in hand, maybe it's the weight, but I feel like I can take this knife and literally like just rip it against a brick wall, and I feel like it's still going to work. This thing does feel tankish. Like it doesn't, I mean, so what I'm saying is if you want a knife that you're going to beat the living crap out of, this may be your contender. Because most of the knives out there in the budget world nowadays aren't doing that. They're not built for just beating the shit out of them. They're built for fidget factor and a little bit of sliciness, right? That is my overall thoughts on this knife. This has been a review of the Defcon TP68. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Tyler. You guys stay sharp, stay safe, and have a great freaking day. Thanks.